You are nothing but a common thief, and this family will not tolerate your presence for one more day." Abigail Williams stood in the center of the family compound's main parlor, facing a semicircle of accusers. Her stepmother, Mrs. Patricia Williams, held up a bank statement like a weapon. Behind her, Abigail's half-sister Christina smirked with satisfaction. The entire extended family had gathered for this public humiliation. "Mama, I never stole anything from the family business," Abigail said, her voice steady despite the trembling in her hands. "Those transactions were authorized by Papa before he died." "Lies," Christina stepped forward, her designer heels clicking on the marble floor. 2 million naira disappeared from our trading account the day after Papa's funeral. Only you had access to those funds. Chief Mrs. Williams, Abigail's grandmother and the family matriarch, sat silent in her carved wooden chair. At 85, her word was law in their household. Everyone waited for her verdict. "The evidence is clear," Mrs. Patricia declared. "You forged your father's signature and stole money meant for your sister's wedding preparations. You have brought shame to the Williams name." Abigail's chest tightened. 6 months ago, she had been the heir apparent to Williams Trading Company, one of Lagos's most successful import businesses. Her father had groomed her from childhood to take over the empire he had built from nothing. Now, 3 months after his sudden death, she stood accused of the one crime that would destroy everything. "Christina, tell them the truth," Abigail pleaded, turning to her half-sister. "You know I would never steal from this family." Christina's eyes gleamed with false tears. "Sister, I wanted to protect you, but the bank records don't lie. Perhaps the grief made you confused about what Papa actually authorized." The room erupted in murmurs. Uncles and aunts who had once respected Abigail now looked at her with suspicion and disappointment. She realized with growing horror that this was a carefully orchestrated plan. Christina had been planning this moment since their father's funeral. "Enough," Chief Mrs. Williams finally spoke, her voice cutting through the noise like a blade. "Abigail, my granddaughter, you have disappointed me deeply. Grandmama, please listen. The Williams name stands for integrity and honor. Your actions have stained our reputation." The old woman's voice cracked with pain. "Until you can prove your innocence and repay every kobo you stole, you are no longer welcome in this house." Abigail felt the ground shift beneath her feet. "You're disowning me. You disowned yourself the moment you chose greed over family loyalty." Mrs. Patricia stepped forward with a prepared envelope. "Here is 5,000 naira. Consider it charity. You have 1 hour to pack your belongings and leave this compound." Abigail stared at the envelope, then at the faces surrounding her. These people had been her family, her world, her identity. Now they looked at her like she was a stranger. Christina's satisfied smile confirmed what Abigail's heart already knew. This was a betrayal years in the making. "Keep your money," Abigail said quietly, letting the envelope fall to the floor. "I don't need your charity." She walked toward the stairs leading to her room, her back straight despite the weight of their stares. Behind her, someone whispered about the mighty falling hard. Another voice mentioned how pride always came before destruction. In her room, Abigail packed a single bag with essential clothes and her mother's jewelry, the only things that truly belonged to her. She looked around the space that had been hers for 26 years, memorizing every detail. The business degree hanging on the wall, the photo of her and her father at her university graduation, the bookshelf filled with management and economics textbooks. An hour later, she stood at the compound gate with her bag, watching the security guard close the iron doors behind her. The Williams family crest, a lion surrounded by palm fronds, stared back at her from the gate. Her grandfather had designed that crest when he started the business 60 years ago. Now it represented everything she had lost. But as she walked toward the main road, something hardened inside Abigail's chest. Christina thought she had won, but she had made one crucial mistake. She had underestimated exactly who Abigail Williams really was. 6 months later, Abigail revved her Okada motorcycle engine outside the Sheraton Hotel in Victoria Island. The helmet covered her face, but she could see the shocked expressions of former family friends as they recognized her voice when she called out prices to potential passengers. 50 naira to Ikoyi, she shouted, competing with other motorcycle riders for customers. Mrs. Aduni Bakare, her father's former business partner, stared in horror. Abigail? William's daughter? What are you doing here? Making an honest living, Ma, Abigail replied, adjusting her worn helmet. Need a ride somewhere? Mrs. Bakar hurried away, whispering urgently into her phone. Within hours, the news would spread through Lagos high society. The disgraced Williams heiress had become a common Okada rider. But what none of them knew was that every evening after parking her motorcycle in a Surulere compound, Abigail changed clothes and became someone else entirely. She transformed into A.W. Shadow, the mysterious CEO of Shadow Holdings, a company she had built using skills her father never knew she possessed. At 18, while studying business administration, Abigail had secretly started trading stocks online using money from her part-time jobs. By 22, she had accumulated enough capital to begin investing in real estate and small businesses. Her father believed she spent her free time shopping and socializing. In reality, she was building an empire he never imagined. The night she was thrown out of the family compound, Abigail had accessed her hidden accounts. Shadow Holdings was worth over 2 billion naira, with investments spanning construction, technology, and import-export businesses across Nigeria. The Okada riding was perfect cover. No one suspected that the struggling motorcycle taxi driver controlled companies employing thousands of people. Madam Shadow is here for the board meeting, her assistant announced, as Abigail entered the sleek conference room in Victoria Island. She wore a tailored business suit, her hair styled professionally, designer glasses completing her transformation. The Arinze construction deal is ready for final approval, reported her chief financial officer. They need immediate capital injection to complete the Abuja housing project. Abigail studied the file. Arinze Construction belonged to Dominic Arinze, son of Chief Arinze. She had been monitoring his business for weeks, impressed by his commitment to affordable housing and ethical practices. Unlike many wealthy young men in Lagos, Dominic actually worked for his success. Approved the funding, she decided, but I want regular progress reports. What she didn't mention was her personal interest in Dominic. 3 weeks earlier, while riding her Okada near his construction site, she had witnessed him defend one of his workers from an aggressive client. The worker had made a minor mistake, and the client demanded he be fired immediately. Dominic refused, instead taking personal responsibility and offering to fix the problem at his own expense. A man's character shows in how he treats those who can do nothing for him, Dominic had told the angry client. My workers are not disposable. Abigail had been struck by his integrity. In her world of corporate sharks and family betrayers, such genuine decency was rare. The next morning, she positioned her Okada near his office building. When Dominic emerged, looking tired and stressed, she called out, "Good morning, sir. Need transport?" He looked surprised but smiled warmly. "Sure. Take me to the bank on Broad Street." During the 15-minute ride through Lagos traffic, they talked easily. Dominic didn't speak to her with the condescension most wealthy men showed Okada riders. He asked about her family, her dreams, her challenges. When she dropped him off, he paid double her fare. "What's your name?" he asked. "Abigail," she replied honestly. "I'm Dominic. Maybe I'll see you around here again." For 3 weeks, this pattern continued. Dominic would hire her for short trips, and they would talk about everything: politics, business, family expectations, personal dreams. He never asked why an educated woman like her rode Okada for a living. She appreciated his respect for her privacy. But yesterday, she had overheard something that changed everything. Christina was engaged to Anthony Ike, son of a prominent Lagos family. The wedding would be the social event of the season, and Christina planned to use it to permanently cement her position as the Williams family heiress. Abigail smiled grimly as she parked her motorcycle that evening. Christina thought she had won by stealing her inheritance and reputation. She had no idea that her disgraced sister now controlled enough wealth to buy and sell the Williams family business 10 times over. The real game was just beginning. "Abigail Williams, what are you doing at my son's engagement party?" The entire ballroom at the Echo Hotel fell silent as Mrs. Patricia Williams' voice cut through the celebration. Abigail stood in the doorway wearing a simple Ankara dress, her motorcycle helmet tucked under her arm. Every eye in the room turned to stare at the disgraced daughter who dared show her face at high society's most anticipated event. Christina, radiant in her designer wedding gown during the traditional engagement ceremony, looked mortified. Security, how did she get past the gate? I rode my Okada through the service entrance, Abigail said calmly, walking into the room filled with Lagos elite. I came to pay my respects to the happy couple. Anthony Ike, the groom, shifted uncomfortably in his expensive agbada. His mother, Chief Mrs. Ike, stepped forward with disgust written across her face. You have some nerve showing up here after what you did to your own family. What I did? Abigail's voice remained steady, but her eyes flashed. Interesting perspective. Dominic Arenzi appeared at her side, having followed her into the ballroom. Is everything all right, Abigail? The crowd gasped. Chief Arenzi's son was publicly associating with the family disgrace. His father looked ready to have a heart attack. Dominic, what are you doing with this criminal? Chief Mrs. Ike demanded. This woman, Dominic said firmly, is worth more than everyone in this room combined. And I'm not talking about money. Abigail felt her heart skip. For 6 months, she had hidden behind masks, the struggling Okada rider, the mysterious CEO, the disgraced daughter. But Dominic saw something real in her, something that had nothing to do with wealth or status. Christina laughed harshly. Brother Dominic, you don't understand. Abigail is a thief who stole from our family business. She's deceiving you, just like she deceived us. The only deception here, Abigail said quietly, is the story you've been telling about what really happened. Mrs. Patricia stepped forward menacingly. You dare come here and spread lies. We have bank records proving your theft. Bank records can be manipulated by someone with access to the family accounts, Abigail replied. Someone who knew Papa's banking patterns well enough to forge convincing documentation. Christina's face went pale for just a moment before she recovered. You're desperate, sister. Making wild accusations won't restore your reputation. I don't need my reputation restored, Abigail said, pulling out her phone. I need the truth revealed. She had spent months gathering evidence, using Shadow Holdings' resources to investigate the financial transactions that destroyed her life. What she discovered was worse than simple theft. It was a calculated campaign spanning years. Should I tell them about the medical bills you charged to the company account? The ones for cosmetic surgery you claimed were business expenses. Abigail's voice carried clearly across the silent room. Or maybe the fake vendor contracts you created to siphon money into your personal accounts. Christina's composure finally cracked. You're lying. The Atlantis Beauty Clinic has excellent records, Abigail continued, as does Sterling Bank regarding the suspicious transfers made 3 days before Papa's funeral. While I was arranging his burial, you were moving money and preparing evidence to frame me. Anthony stepped away from his fiancée, confusion replacing his earlier confidence. Christina, what is she talking about? Don't listen to her. Christina turned to the crowd desperately. She's just angry because she's poor now and I'm successful. Successful? Abigail laughed bitterly. You stole my inheritance and destroyed my reputation, but you call that success? Chief Mrs. Williams, who had remained silent until now, slowly rose from her chair. At 95, her presence still commanded absolute respect. Christina, my granddaughter, is what Abigail says true? Grandmama, of course not. She's just… Answer me directly. Did you forge those bank records? The room held its breath. Christina looked around wildly, realizing that her grandmother's tone had shifted. The old woman's sharp eyes saw through lies that had fooled everyone else. I protected our family from her poor judgment, Christina whispered finally. The admission hit the room like a thunderbolt. Gasps and whispers erupted as Lagos society processed the revelation. The Golden Daughter was the real thief, and they had all participated in destroying an innocent woman. But Abigail wasn't finished. She looked directly at Dominic, her heart pounding as she prepared to reveal her final secret. There's something else you all should know, she said, her voice carrying across the stunned ballroom. Something about who I really am. Abigail pulled out a sleek business card from her worn Okada jacket. The embossed logo gleamed under the ballroom's crystal chandeliers. Shadow Holdings, Nigeria's fastest-growing investment company. My name is A.W. Shadow, she announced to the stunned crowd. I am the founder and CEO of Shadow Holdings. The silence was deafening. Chief Ahrens dropped his champagne glass, the crystal shattering on the marble floor. Anthony's jaw hung open as he stared at the woman he had helped humiliate for months. That's impossible, Mrs. Patricia whispered. Shadow Holdings is worth billions. You're just an Okada rider. I've been riding Okada for 6 months, Abigail said calmly. I've been building Shadow Holdings for 8 years. Would you like to see the incorporation documents? They're dated 2 years before Papa died. Dominic stepped closer, his eyes wide with recognition. The construction loan, the affordable housing project funding, that was you. Every contract, every investment decision, every business strategy. While Christina was stealing from the family business, I was building an empire. Abigail's voice grew stronger with each word. The 2 million naira she accused me of stealing. That's what Shadow Holdings earns in interest every day. Christina backed away, her designer dress rustling as she nearly stumbled. You're lying. Prove it. Abigail raised her phone and dialed a number. Mr. Johnson, yes, it's A.W. Shadow. I'm at the Echo Hotel ballroom. Could you please send the security team to confirm my identity? Within minutes, a team of professional security personnel entered the ballroom. Their leader, a tall man in an expensive suit, approached Abigail with respect. Good evening, Madam Shadow. How may we assist you tonight? The room erupted in whispers and gasps. Lagos society's most mysterious business figure had been hiding in plain sight as a motorcycle taxi driver. Chief Mrs. Williams struggled to her feet, leaning heavily on her walking stick. Abigail, my child, is this true? Yes, Grandmama. I started the company in my university days using money I earned from part-time jobs. Papa never knew because I wanted to prove I could succeed independently. Abigail's voice softened as she addressed her grandmother. I planned to merge it with Williams Trading after graduation to strengthen our family business. But why didn't you defend yourself 6 months ago? Why let us believe Christina's lies? Abigail looked directly at Christina, whose face had gone ashen. Because I wanted to see who truly cared about me beyond money and status. I discovered that my own family was willing to destroy me based on fabricated evidence. Anthony suddenly stepped forward, his voice desperate. Abigail, I made a mistake. I should have believed you. Maybe we could… Anthony, stop. Dominic moved protectively beside Abigail. You had your chance to stand by her when she needed support. You chose to follow your mother's prejudices instead. Chief Mrs. Ike's face flushed with embarrassment and anger. My son can choose whoever he wants. Your family connections don't make you better than us. This isn't about family connections, Dominic replied firmly. It's about character. Abigail showed more dignity sleeping in a one-room apartment and riding Okada than most people show living in mansions. Abigail felt tears threatening as she realized what Dominic was saying. He had fallen in love with her when he thought she was nobody special. His feelings weren't influenced by her wealth or business success. Christina, Chief Mrs. Williams called out, her voice filled with disappointment, come here immediately. Christina approached reluctantly, her earlier confidence completely shattered. You will confess your crimes publicly. You will return every naira you stole. And you will apologize to your sister for the pain you caused. But Grandmama, my engagement, my wedding… Your engagement is over, Anthony said quietly, removing his traditional beads. I cannot marry someone who would destroy her own family for money. Christina fell to her knees, finally understanding that her lies had cost her everything. Abigail, please, I'm sorry. I was jealous. Papa always loved you more, and I couldn't stand it. Abigail looked down at her half-sister, feeling a mixture of sadness and vindication. For 6 months, she had imagined this moment of triumph. But seeing Christina's complete humiliation, she felt no satisfaction. Only pity. The damage is done, Christina. You didn't just steal money, you stole trust, reputation, and family bonds. Dominic took her hand gently. What happens now? Abigail squeezed his fingers, drawing strength from his support. Now, I decide whether revenge or mercy defines who I become. The entire ballroom waited for her verdict, understanding that her next words would determine multiple futures. Abigail looked around the ballroom, filled with Lagos society's most powerful families. 6 months ago, these same people had whispered about her disgrace behind closed fans and champagne glasses. Tonight they waited for her judgment like subjects before a queen. "Christina," she said finally, "stand up." Her half-sister rose shakily, mascara streaking down her cheeks. The designer wedding dress that had cost more than most people's annual salary now looked like a costume of shame. "I could destroy you completely," Abigail continued, her voice steady but not cruel. "Shadow Holdings has enough influence to ensure you never work in Lagos again. I could have you prosecuted for fraud, embezzlement, and forgery. Your name would become synonymous with betrayal." Christina sobbed quietly, understanding the full scope of her sister's power. "But revenge would make me like you, willing to destroy family for personal satisfaction." Abigail turned to face her grandmother. "Grandmama, I respect your authority in this family. What justice do you recommend?" Chief Mrs. Williams studied both granddaughters carefully. Her weathered hands gripped her walking stick as she considered her words. "Christina will publicly confess her crimes and return every stolen naira. She will also work without salary in the family business for 2 years, learning the value of honest labor." The old woman's voice carried the weight of final judgment. "Abigail, my child, I ask your forgiveness for doubting you. Will you return home?" Abigail felt Dominic's hand squeeze hers encouragingly. She looked at the compound that had raised her, the family that had shaped her, and the legacy her father had built with his own hands. "I'll return, Grandmama, but not as the person who left. I'm merging Shadow Holdings with Williams Trading to create something larger than either business alone. We'll honor Papa's memory by building the biggest family enterprise in West Africa." The crowd murmured with excitement. The merger would create a business empire worth billions, positioning the Williams family among Nigeria's most powerful dynasties. Anthony stepped forward desperately. "Abigail, about our past relationship. Anthony, you made your choice when you chose social approval over loyalty. Some bridges, once burned, cannot be rebuilt." She turned to Dominic with a smile that lit up her entire face. "I'm planning to build new bridges instead." Dominic's eyes sparkled with understanding. "Are you asking what I think you're asking? Dominic Arinze, you fell in love with an Okada rider who had nothing to offer except honest conversation and genuine feelings. Will you marry a businesswoman who can give you everything except a simple life?" "I don't want a simple life," he replied, pulling her close despite the watching crowd. "I want a life with you, whatever complications that brings." Chief Arinze finally found his voice. "Son, are you certain about this decision?" "Papa, I've never been more certain of anything. Abigail has more integrity in her little finger than most people have in their entire bodies. She chose to suffer rather than compromise her principles." Mrs. Patricia approached hesitantly, her earlier hostility replaced by nervous respect. "Abigail, I owe you an apology. I let Christina's lies influence my judgment. We all make mistakes, Ma. The question is whether we learn from them." Abigail's response was gracious but not overly warm. Trust, once broken, required time to repair. Chief Mrs. Williams raised her walking stick for attention. "Let this be a lesson to everyone present. Character reveals itself not in prosperity, but in adversity. My granddaughter Abigail faced the worst accusations and chose dignity over bitterness." The crowd applauded, but Abigail barely heard them. She was thinking about her father, wondering if he would be proud of the woman she had become. She had lost everything he built for her, then built something even greater herself. Most importantly, she had found a man who loved her for who she was, not what she owned. "There's one more thing," she announced as the applause died down. "Shadow Holdings will establish a foundation providing business loans to young entrepreneurs who can't access traditional banking. We'll give others the opportunities I had to create when doors were closed to me." Dominic beamed with pride. "That's my future wife, always thinking about lifting others up." As they walked out of the ballroom together, Abigail realized that Christina's betrayal had been an unexpected gift. It forced her to discover her own strength and led her to a love based on authenticity rather than convenience. The Okada queen had become a business empire, but more importantly, she had become a woman who knew her own worth. 6 months later, at their wedding ceremony, Abigail and Dominic exchanged vows in the same ballroom, where her truth had been revealed. This time, the celebration was genuine, built on foundation of love, respect, and shared dreams. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe, like, and comment at the comment section below.